Hey everybody, welcome to another RPG rant. This time we're going to discuss how I typically end up going about building plots. Let the rambling begin. So, when you're going about building them, you really want to end up focusing on your basic questions, which is your who, what, when, where, why, and how. Weird thing about plots, there's two ways you can end up going about it. One, I try and discourage myself from doing so. It has its place. Railroading. Now, what's so bad about railroading? Railroading has this typical problem of you are setting events in motion that you already have scripted out, and really your story is just to get them from point A to point B. Story at that point is oftentimes treated almost like a pseudo interactive cutscene, and then you have to go to point A, then you have to go to point B. This can end up helping when you're trying to tell a story to a bunch of people. Doesn't work so well in most RPGs I've played. Now, it does have its place. The place I find it works best is in two scenarios. One, you're running a one shot, in which case you want to tell this story and you're asking them, would you like to come along? Right? And you're going to help them aid you in here telling a specific story. This ends up turning into a situation I often describe as you're just trying to end up getting through the motions in order to play through a particular scenario. It's not my favorite, but it can be serviceable. And the second one is, and I'm run into this situation more times than I care to admit, but it's thankfully not the norm, is when players are tossed into a sandbox type game for the first time, and they're used to being railroaded. This was very much my case when I was growing with RPGs. More often than not, the GM's job was to end up giving us plot, and we were supposed to go from one place to the next, to the next, to the next, and this is how it happened. So the dungeon master would just write up the dungeon or the encounters, and we would go through the motions until we eventually got the evidence to go to X place. Now, this isn't so bad if you know that's the direction your players are wanting to head, because you can at least get some preparation. Worst case scenario, they don't go that route, and well, it kind of sucks, but hey, you can make do. But in this case, you still end up running into those same situations where you want to end up asking who, what, where, when, why, and how. Now, if you want to end up bringing it up a notch, this is how I go about it. I take the players and I put them aside for a moment. I take one NPC, maybe two, maybe three, and I ask myself, what are they proactively trying to do? Here's the key thing. First off, the players are not necessarily in opposition, nor are they assisting. This is simply what an NPC or an event is geared towards. Now, you might want to find ways to tie this into your players. They have plot hooks in their backgrounds, maybe, or recent events. An NPC's reaction to recent events that maybe the players have caused. There's a whole bunch of myriad ways that you can hook that in, but plot hooks is an entirely different thing. Right now, we're trying to construct the basis of a story. So let me go through a simple example. The players recently ended up taking down a group of big bads, but maybe one of them escaped. This has happened recently in my games, so if you players are actually listening in on this, don't worry, I won't be spoiling much. Besides, do you really trust me to end up letting you in on all the fun? But if this person has started, we already have our who. This who is this big bad who has been defeated minions have been killed, or maybe their leader has been killed. Maybe it's the second lieutenant that's been brought up. Maybe it's a peon that was really dedicated to the cause. So we know who this person is. We probably spent some time with them. I know I have. Okay, so who? What? Okay, what is this about? And that can get a little tricky because sometimes you get confused what with why. What is what they're doing? Okay, so what would this person do? Now, your first thought is get revenge. Revenge is not the what, it is the why. What you're actually going to end up asking is what are they doing to get that revenge? Now, there's a few ways you can go about this. You could maybe have the character secretly follow a few of the players. You could have them maybe slipping misinformation to their allies to get them to not trust the players. You might get them to sit back and bring their power back up by gaining influence and building up their own personal horde, trying to come back up to power, that they will rise again like a phoenix from the ashes. And it all works well and good. So once this person's started, I'm going to select one here that's probably not going to end up happening in my game, but it could be an interesting one. What if this player or this character, this big bad, wasn't revealed to be the big bad to anyone else but the players? The players' word against theirs. Well, maybe he or she wants to end up turning the rest of the party against whatever factions they're starting. Maybe they want to have the town riot against them. Maybe they have some guild members that have some old debts that want to be paid off. Maybe there's a whole bunch of little idiosyncrasies you can bring in that, because this big bad is aware of, they want to end up breaking up. So what are they doing? They're trying to separate the party or the coterie, in my case right now, from their allies. Okay, so who, what, where? Okay, where are they doing this from? Okay, they might be doing this from a keep in the far woods, sending ravens to end up passing along messages. Maybe they're located in a hidden bunker underneath a house. Maybe they're working and hiding in a clinic, preying off the weak and innocent, trying to use them as feelers throughout the nation. Maybe they're taking the time to end up making a warehouse into an armory, ready to strike at a moment's notice, or just maybe they're closer than the players realize. You got to think of where. Location, location, location. Location tells you what is readily available to the individual, that NPC. A simple example. A NPC who bases themselves near a gold mine has very different resources than that one who bases themselves in the slums. This one has wealth. This one has desperation. That location starts to formulate the little details on how they go about it. But we'll get to how in a minute. So we got who, what, where, when. Now, this can be tricky. Sometimes it could be that slow burning plot, that one that lurks in the background, and the players might hear mention of it, but they don't really know what it's about. Maybe this NPC is trying to summon something from the beyond, and it can only happen during the alignment of these stars. So they're on a deadline. Why is time important, or is it important? You need to end up figuring this a bit out. When to strike sometimes becomes very valuable. Are they on a clock? Put them on a clock. That typically breeds a bit of desperation from the NPC, meaning that they can't just sit back. They got to be proactive. I suggest a highly proactive NPC, especially if you're making the big bad, or, like I said, you don't need to make it the big bad if you're formulating for something else entirely. You could take this person and say, here's what it is that they need to accomplish, and this is their timeline. So they do not have time to end up settling for pleasantries every single moment. They don't have time to end up saying, "Hey, how you doing? Enjoying the weather?" No, they got bigger plans to fulfill, and that makes them motivated. Nothing's more dangerous than a highly motivated adversary or ally. Who, what, where, when, why. That why is the linchpin that holds all these other questions together. You can add all of these other ones, but if you do not understand why, you cannot understand the psychology of this NPC. In the case I'm using right now, revenge might be a very prominent factor. It's a very simple base emotion. They hit me, I want to hit them back. Could be reviewed as childish. That's not necessarily to say that your character is above such things. Maybe their idea is might makes right. You punched me in the nose, so I'm going to break your neck. Well, revenge is fully understandable in this case, as the group of PCs has managed to end up killing off everybody close to this NPC. For what? Doing their jobs? They ended up coming in and massacring those very close to them. They only have one little ally left. That ally is devoted. That ally is useful, and that ally can do things that the party has no idea. So, that's the motive. But what about your plot? Maybe they honestly want to better their kingdom. Unfortunately, this requires expansion of the kingdom, more farmland, more tools, more resources. You can only make Rome so large, so you need to keep expanding. Maybe it's to feed their family or some other such personal issue that they're trying to overcome. Maybe it is that they're mad. They're in a period where they can't get the proper help, and so they start becoming further and further distraught until they have to construct their own realities. So no one else might understand them, but they will make the world understand them. Maybe it's just a man who needs to keep order. A woman, not particularly going to get in the details of which one matters in that case, but order needs to be maintained. But how far is that character going to go? How? How is the interesting question. Because how is the mechanics of it. And I don't just mean game mechanics. I mean figuring out, how does this work? What are the rules that this character's playing under? You start figuring out how. This is where you start finding those little things that the PCs might get in touch with. Maybe it is that your character is your NPC actually is trying to end up getting a hold of the drug trade, but one of the PCs already does or is trying to, and now all of a sudden, well, there might be a little bit of a rivalry here. Who finds out about who first? It doesn't matter. You don't need to end up placing the hook directly. You can just make mention of it, little things, little details as you end up fleshing out the world for them. Because as you do that, you're going to end up finding that there's loads of potential. Once you have these little tidbits built up, why and how, to the most important. How lets you end up going with the, like I said, the details. So let's consider this. Maybe this character wants revenge. Well, maybe they're going to stalk them. Their how is they stalk. They find out all the information they can. They try and dislodge the party from their new lofty pedestal from whence they gained by defeating your comrades. As the NPC, you are jealous, angry. You want to see them fall. You want to see them humiliated. How? So you find those secrets. You find those dirty little deeds. You find those ways that they slipped up, and you make them available to all the world. Maybe you're insidious and that's not enough. Maybe it is that you want to have them lose something. Maybe lose their family. Maybe you wanted to make them hurt as much as you were hurt. All those little details, all those plots of what you're going to do, how you're going to go about it, start really becoming the nice little details that can eventually have the plot hooks. Simple example, maybe a character catches a flash, looks and sees a man with a camera. As soon as they're seen, the man drives off. Maybe they notice that their home locks have been tampered with. Maybe they notice that the wax seal on their letters has been cracked open. Maybe there's, well, we'll save the best stuff for the party, but I think you get the idea. There's little things, little hooks to let them know something's wrong. This is how we have to present it now. A thing that changed. Maybe it's a rumor. A rumor they hear from a close personal friend. Maybe it's that one thing out of place, such as the coffee table's not where you left it. Maybe your house keys are missing after you wake up. Maybe you notice that someone has stolen your coin purse. Somebody, there's a whole bunch of little things, but they're little things that are part of this plan. Again, that's in revenge. What if the military commander is trying to maintain order, trying to expand the empire for the glory of the great and illustrious king? Well, he's going to have to end up going through some hard times. He might need some help, so he reaches out to the players. You don't have to be direct with it. You can be. You can be indirect with it. Maybe they start picking up on things on their own. That's always the best, though, when they start investigating, finding routes. Here's the difference, though, between what I'm doing right now and railroading. When you railroad, I know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, finale. I know that these are the routes that's going to happen. In this case, I understand what the situation is after I've figured out those questions. Once I've figured out those questions, it blooms, because it doesn't matter what angle that the players come at it from. I at least understand how everything's affected, and maybe the NPC is built a plot that's glass. Everything's so fragile, and the slightest touch will bring everything crumbling down. Maybe they're a master manipulator. Maybe they're the grandiose champion who relishes one-on-one combat. Well, all the best laid plans, right? But understand, the players, They're very much under their own situation. They sometimes forget on how precarious their situation is. Pathfinder, Dungeons and Dragons. What happens when they go into the dungeon and somebody decides to pour lamp oil down the entrance to finish them and light it? Might result in TPK, might result in them requiring acts of desperation. Maybe they'll come out of it scarred and burnt, but alive. Who knows? But that can happen just by making the wrong enemy who knows that they're going to the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe you have a NPC who feels like they can build a better society if only the players would understand. So he starts to highlight the problems with the current one. He makes it very evident. And they, well, might have to end up seeing it his way after they see the faults. But once his jig is up, what does he do then? If you know who this person is, if you know what they're about, where, why, when, how, you start to get a better picture and better understanding of what their reaction is going to be as they play this game of push me, pull you with the players. And that makes for something that's very organic. The problem here is, and let it be warned, you don't know where the plot's going to go yourself. You're not in full control. The players, believe it or not, are. You're just reacting. And if you react well enough, well, that's when plots come alive.